Hey everybody, how you doing? It is Sifu Ed and Chester here at Ekata Training Center, and I'm gonna go on a little bit of a rant. Usually what I do is I talk about things that are more of a philosophical nature, but this time I'm gonna talk about something that's more of a self-defense nature, and I'm gonna help this guy defend himself and get off me. So this has to do with a home invasion that recently occurred, and it was pretty high up on the food chain in terms of news. A gentleman named Anthony Smith, who's a UFC fighter, was invaded. His home was invaded by a young man named Luke Haberman. And the issue that I have with it is that Mr. Smith was able to subdue this young man, but it was not until a long, hard fight ensued. And he, very honestly in the interviews came out and said, I had no idea it would be this hard to deal with an average guy. So when it comes to an average guy, this is what I want you to look at. So here is a surveillance video of this average guy trying to go into somebody's house before he came into Mr. Smith's house. Take a look at this.
Typically when people...
So what do you think? That an average guy, by your estimation? The guy sounds like the frickin' Exorcist. There's no way. It's the invasion of the body snatchers. Somebody screaming at he's a nut. So whether it's drug-induced or whether it's something that is just a mental imbalance, regardless of the circumstance, the guy's off his rocker. You ever dealt with anybody like that before? So I'm a little bit tired of the armchair quarterbacks telling this guy what he should have done. Mr. Smith effectively managed the situation. He was able to neutralize it. He was able to subdue the guy until law enforcement came, but not without a massive struggle. So what I want to talk about is the massive struggle. And what is entailed with that, and what do you do? So the first thing is to magically assume that you're going to be able to beat up somebody who is crazed is a false assumption. So watch. All right, if I do this, right, here, so I'm on a heavy bag. Attacker comes toward me. So I'm getting on towards 60 years old. I don't hit as hard as I used to, but that was a pretty good, solid smack. If I hit somebody square with that in the throat, you think it's gonna hurt them? Yeah, it's gonna hurt them. It'll probably take them out. So I'm 210, 6'2", and I got a lot of experience under my belt. So let me also kind of tell you something that I used to do. In some instances, I have given some video testimonial telling you about problems that I had with drug addiction and alcoholism when I was a young guy. So one of the things that I used to do when I was in Kentucky, I used to fight in full contact karate and these things that they would call tough man contests, where they basically kind of have a bar and a ring and you go in and just whoever get in and fight. So what I used to do is I used to take 3 or 4 hits of acid and a half pint of whiskey and go get in the ring. I didn't feel, this is gonna be a PG video, okay, so forewarn your children. I didn't feel shit. When somebody hit me, all I felt was rage, and I just ran straight at them until they were done. And it was really effective, worked really well. I wonder why. So if you take somebody, so this guy, this Luke Haberman guy, has 100 and some odd wrestling fights under his belt. Have you noticed that when wrestlers go into the UFCs, they do really well? There's a reason for that. So if you take the combination of somebody who's crazed with a little bit of skill and determination and an adrenal surge, it is not the easiest thing in the world to take that person out. So what do you do? Okay, well, I would assert there are multiple strategies to manage this, but let's work our way backward just a little bit. First off, secure perimeter. So if you, a little bit of forethought, and you make sure that you've locked your doors, make sure that you have locks that are effective, because if you lock your door and the door is predominantly made of glass, or you've got a window right next to the door and somebody goes kink and knocks in the window and unlatches it and crawls through, then it's essentially the same issue. You just get somebody in 60 seconds later than you would have if they just came straight in, or whether they just put their foot through the door and decided to just come straight through it. Okay, so we have perimeter security, that's important. So maybe a security system, something like that, that could go off when someone crosses that barrier. That's one line of defense. But how quickly is somebody going to get there when that occurs? It might draw attention to you, sends off a loud alarm, may bring other members of your household running to your aid. But let's say you're the only person there who's able to defend yourself, and you have small children, a wife and a grandmother in the house with you. How much are they going to be able to realistically help you, and how much are they going to be in danger when that happens? Okay, weapon. Okay. Yes, stand back and shoot if you were prepared to do so. What if you get caught flat-footed? What if you wake up and there's some nut at the end of your bed and that you don't have time to respond or react? Is it the gun under the pillow? Well, that's stupid, because what you're going to do is end up killing somebody that you love at some point. So not an effective strategy. You have to react immediately, right then, right there. So what are the types of weapons? Yeah, I have a former student who was a penthouse pet, so that's like a centerfold, and she was in Hollywood. Somebody crawled through her window and put a sheet over the top of her head and attempted to rape her. It just so happened, just luckily, she had a screwdriver on her nightstand. She grabbed the screwdriver and started stabbing the guy repeatedly, and he went screaming back out the window the way that he came. But she was lucky, and she was also a feisty woman, and so she had it in her to want to fight. In my opinion, it comes down to spirit, and it comes down to understanding what to do to completely incapacitate someone that is trying to harm you. There's a guy named Tim Larkin who does a lot of programs. He used to do SEAL training, and he was in SEAL training. I believe he became a SEAL himself, but was injured during the training exercises. And he has a system that's all about targets. Target training program, I can't remember the name of it exactly, but it's all about what do you go for? And what is going to actually completely incapacitate somebody who is on the attack? Eyes, throat, ears, knees. Now, repetitive blows might not work. What about having some sort of object that could potentially incapacitate somebody who is crazy? Now, listen, you can speculate about this stuff all day long, all you want. But when that adrenal surge hits both people, you keep going. I got stabbed when I was a teenager, and I didn't even know I got hit. And now, granted, it wasn't, some Bowie knife or something like that, but nonetheless, I literally walked out of it, was walking for probably 10 minutes and felt something sticky. It was at nighttime, and I didn't even realize that I'd been stabbed. And if you look at surveillance videos of people being stabbed, you can see they get hit multiple times. They don't just fall over. there's a time period that is necessary. And depending upon where the severity of the strike lies or the cut lies, that would potentially incapacitate you. Now, I know none of this stuff is pleasant, and I know it's not a wonderful, warm topic to talk about, but we hear about these things, and we hear about violent encounters. So what is it? I would suggest preparation. Preparation, physical preparation, psychological preparation. It doesn't mean that you need to walk around in the world being completely frightened of everything at every turn, but it just means be smart, be thoughtful. This exists in our world. So taking precautions, preventative measures, is only reasonable. And then criticizing, like this gentleman, Anthony Smith, by saying, well, you should have done this or you should have done that. Shut up. You have to be in those circumstances in order to actually feel that. And then who knows what happens at those times. So what are you going to do? Break a joint, take their eyes out, choke them out? You have to know how to do all that stuff. And is it size contingent? Yeah, you bet it is. Is it power contingent? Yeah, you bet it is. Does that help you? Sure. So if you're a small person developing a skill set, something that's going to allow you and to get a one-up on somebody, man, worthy of consideration. There's a guy named Tony Bauer who does a whole series on the mind state of fear and overcoming that. Fight or flight, the amygdala, and conditioned responses. So there is no real conclusion to this video. This is just observations. And, I've been around the block or two, so I know a little bit about this stuff. And I've been in circumstances where I've been pitted against nuts and people who were dusted. My son told me a story yesterday about he was an EMT in South Central, and some guy was on angel dust, PCP, and law enforcement had cuffed him, hands behind his back. He pulled the cuffs around and got them underneath his foot and went and pulled his hands out and broke both of his thumbs, ripped the skin off of his hands, and went running down the street like this until they tackled him and they tased him. And even then they had a hard time subduing the guy. So if you think you're going to kickbox your way into, happy submission with some dude who's rocked like that, good luck. Have fun. And in the meantime, have an awesome time being an armchair quarterback, because until you're walking in those shoes and you've dealt with that, you don't know what you're talking about. So I don't even know if that's helpful. I hope it is. I hope somebody got something out of that. But I feel better. Chester feels better. So I hope you guys have a great day.